Warren Buffett shared a 3-step prioritization strategy with his personal pilot, Mike Flint, when Flint asked the man, "How do I achieve more success in my career?" So here is Warren Buffett's response. Step 1, write down 25 career goals. Now, this was Flint looking for career success. If you're looking for success in other areas like personal growth or financial goals that you have, you can change those. Also, if you have a 1-year plan and you cover different areas, you can say the 25 goals you want to achieve in this 1 year or in this 5 years or whatever your timeline is. So step 1, write down the 25 goals that you have. Step 2, review the list and pick out the top 5 goals. If you're doing this in real time, make sure you pause the video, identify your 5 top goals, and once you're ready, let's move on to step number 3, which is a very interesting question Warren Buffett asked Flint. He said, "What are you going to do with this list?" So Flint said, "Of course, the top 5 are my primary focus, and the 20 others come a close second, so what I'll do is intermittently, as I see fit, I will work on them. They're not as urgent, but I want to give them a dedicated effort." And here is the key to the 80-20 rule, to Warren Buffett's method. Warren Buffett said,
"No, you've got it all wrong, Mike. Everything you didn't circle as your top goals, it's on the avoid at all cost list. No matter what, these get no attention from you until you've succeeded with your top 5.
Hey everyone, it's Vicky. If you're new here, this is a part of a series on mental models and frameworks that will help you think better, communicate better, and make better decisions. And today we're really talking about one of the core tools that you want to have in your toolkit, which is the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is frequently cited by successful entrepreneurs. And when I first learned this in management consulting, it was one of those aha moments where I realized, wow, this sharpens my thinking immediately. It improves productivity. And this is how management consultants can solve billion-dollar problems in just a few weeks. So today we'll talk about what is the 80-20 rule and how to use it in everyday life. First, what is the 80-20 rule? It's a rule of uneven distribution where 80% of the desired results come from only 20% of your efforts. It's also called the Pareto Principle because it was first coined by Italian economist Pareto. He saw 20% of his pea plants producing 80% of healthy pea pods. So he started to look around and he realized that 20% of the people owned 80% of the land. Today, it's also 20% of the people hold 80% of the wealth, 20% of the apps on your phone are used by you 80% of the day. And of course, in Buffett and Flint's case, it's 20% of your goals are going to lead to 80% of your success. The actual ratio might not be perfectly 80-20, though that comes up a lot. It could be 90-10, it could be 99-1 in some cases. But the idea is that it's uneven distribution of effort versus result. Working hard isn't all it takes to get what you want. It's about working smart, working on the right 20% to get you to that 80% of the results. And it boils down to focus, but again, right, the nuance is on what do you focus on. Like Steve Jobs said, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. It's like Flint, right? The top 5 goals are of course important, but so are the 20 other that come a close second. And that's where Warren Buffett points out that no, those things you want to say no to completely, do not work on them, right? Don't focus any of your attention on them until you've succeeded with the top 5. And that is what focus means. We don't want to give things up because somehow we unconsciously think 80% of success isn't good enough, right? We think that, no, I don't want to give up the 20 other goals because with those, together with the 5, it will be perfect. But think about it. Only 20% of your effort will lead to 80% of the success. If you work a 9-to-5 job, for example, it means spending less than 2 hours a day to achieve 80% of the success of the financial rewards that you want. And let's put it this way if you're still not convinced. The last 20% of your success takes 80% of your effort. Is it really worth it for you to spend 80% of effort only to be rewarded with the last 20%? So how can we apply this to your life? And I'll separate this into two buckets. One is time management and productivity, and the other is sharpening your thought process. So productivity and time management. Well, first, you want to do the Buffett prioritization strategy, right? The 3 steps to identify the goals that you want to work towards. And then you want to take a look every single day at your to-do list and apply the 80-20 rule. Say you have 10 things on your to-do list for today. What do we usually start with? Default is always the easy ones and the urgent ones. If a task is easy, it usually means it doesn't use your expertise. So let's say something like you need to set up a meeting in order to talk about something that's around your expertise. Now, the value of this task of setting up the meeting is low because you can usually get someone else to do this for you. It's not something that you uniquely can do, right? And so in this case, then it doesn't belong to the 20% of effort you need to use in order to get 80% of the success. If it's urgent, it's usually because someone else is pushing you to respond to something so they can succeed and move on with their day, right? And so something like emails is a very typical one. Lots of people spend the morning going through their emails, but does that really contribute to what's going to get them success? Usually no, right? So the success of others more than serves you. Not to say that, you shouldn't help other people, but it's just that how are you going to prioritize your day in order to make sure you are using the 20% of your time efficiently to get more done. And that's why CEOs, entrepreneurs wake up really early in the morning, right? Tim Cook wakes up at 4 a.m. and Disney CEO wakes up at 5 a.m. before people start telling them, I need you here, I need you there, I need you to respond to all of these things, right? They carve out that 20% of their time so that they can achieve the 80% of their impact. So how do you make sure you find the right 20% of tasks to focus on? The hint is these tasks are usually the ones that only you can do. And just identifying one thing that you can do a day, it will completely change the result. And if you want to learn more about this, there's a great book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, so you can check that out. Now, moving on to sharpening your thinking with the 80-20 rule. And here it's about understanding that while the world is very complex, it's very difficult to understand every minute detail of it, we can still identify the 20% of levers that impact 80% of how something works. This is exactly how Elon Musk approached all of these complex, difficult problems he faces in space, in electric vehicles, in education. Let me show you an example of how Elon Musk think about the problem of how to reduce the price of lithium batteries in order to increase electric vehicle adoption.
It's not going to be much better than that in the future. And you say, no, okay, well, what are the batteries made of? So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. So break that down on a material basis and say, okay, what if we bought that on the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, geez, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour. So clearly, you just need to think of clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell, and you can have batteries that are much, much cheaper than anyone realizes.
So here's how the 80-20 rule is applied here. The basic materials of lithium battery is cobalt, nickel, aluminum, some polymers, right, as he said, and they are pretty cheap. So the 20% of your effort won't be focused on how can I make these cheap materials cheaper, but focus on how can I combine them in a smart way, as he said, right, to make sure that the battery prices come down because the actual materials are cheap themselves. So by applying the 80-20 rule to this problem, you see the essence of the problem. The cost is not due to the components, to the materials, right? You don't have to think about, should we change the materials of the battery in order to bring the price down? No, those are cheap. You've already dealt with that. The focus should be on what is the smart way of putting everything together. Is there a different way of thinking about how to create these batteries, how to combine these components in order to drive the price down? This video is already getting pretty long, so I'll cover in the next video, how do we think about breaking down the complexities in the first place, right, in order to apply the 80-20 rule. And of course, we'll use frameworks for that, but by adding the 80-20 rule, it already changes how you approach your time as well as how you approach problems, right? Find the 20% of the effort that's going to affect 80% of the results. And if you found the 80-20 rule helpful, make sure you give this video a like. It really helps with the channel. Subscribe to get more of these frameworks, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.